Chapter 18. Brent, did you hear what I said? Julia asked. What? He looked up from the script he had been reading over. It wasn't awful, but it still didn't have the depth he was looking for. She sighed, clearly agitated she was having to repeat herself. 20th Century Fox called and they want you to audition for a role in the next X-Men movie. Brent shook his head. No, I told you no more action movies. Julia raised an eyebrow at him. What are you still doing here, Brent? It is clear your head and your heart are somewhere else. You've done nothing but mope and turn down every script I've gotten for you. It's just, Brent shrugged, nothing feels right. Nothing feels right because you don't have Sam. I didn't think it was possible since you'd only known the woman a week, but it is obvious you're in love with her. Brent's head dropped onto his palm. I know, but what am I going to do about it? She told me it wouldn't work out, that she didn't want me to return with her. She told you that because she didn't want you to regret giving up fame and fortune for her. But I don't think this life appeals to you any longer. Have you even continued writing your story? No, not since Sam left. Then that's what you need to do. Step out of the limelight, go back to Sulphur Springs or wherever it is Sam lives. Win her back and finish your story. I never thought I'd say this, but I think it's what you need to do. Brent's head popped up, and for the first time in a week, hope flooded in his veins. Do you think that will work? What if she won't take me back? Julia rolled her eyes. Do some grand gesture she can't refuse. You have the money, and she's probably just as miserable as you are anyway. Grand gesture. Yes, he could do that. He just needed to figure out what the perfect grand gesture would be. Thanks, Julia. He pushed back the chair and crossed the room to place a kiss on her cheek. You've been amazing. A blush colored her cheeks and she shook her head. Just invite me to the wedding. I will. Sam stared at the picture of Brent on the TV inside. What had she been thinking breaking it off? She had been nothing but miserable the last week, spending her evenings binge-watching the Night Ranger movies. The only good thing that had happened was that her short stint of fame had brought new customers to the shop. If it kept up, she'd have enough money to cover rent for the next few months. But what good was that if she was miserable? A knock sounded at her door, and Sam put the tub of ice cream she had been eating from on the table beside her before crossing to the door. No need to broadcast her depression to whoever was on the other side. She opened the door and blinked in surprise. Fanny stood in the doorway. Sam had never seen her anywhere other than her own front porch. Hi, Fanny. What can I do for you? Nothing. The old woman pushed past Sam and into the house. It's what I can do for you. What are you talking about? Sam asked. Though she hadn't invited the woman in, she shut the door and turned to her guest. You've been moping around for the last week. Norma says you aren't eating much either. She looked around the room, which Sam hadn't bothered to pick up. Her tongue clicked as her eyes landed on the ice cream container. And ice cream doesn't count. Embarrassed, Sam grabbed the container and shoved the lid back on. Then she walked into the kitchen and placed it back in the freezer. She jumped in surprise when she turned around and Fanny was right behind her. The woman was stealthy. I waited to see if you would come to your senses, but since it appears you aren't, I'm here to help you out. Come to my senses about what? Sam asked. About Brent, you silly woman. I'm not sure what you were thinking breaking it off, but it's clear you care about him. Now, I lost my poor Frank 10 years ago, and not a day goes by that I don't miss him. I'm not going to let the two of you waste precious time when it's clear you belong together." Her finger poked Sam's chest as she punctuated the last 3 words. Sam sighed. "What am I supposed to do, Fanny? I broke it off with him. He's probably moved on by now anyway." "You really are stubborn, aren't you? That man clearly loves you. Did you not see what he did to Norma's diner?" "Yes, but that was before." Why was she protesting so much? She knew in her heart Brent hadn't moved on. No man made a huge gesture like that if he didn't care at least a little. "And this is now, so here's what you do. You are going to pack and drive to Houston and tell him you were wrong. Paul can cover the shop for a few days, and I'll check on the house." "Fanny, I can't just pack up and leave," Sam protested. "Yes, you can, and I'm here to help." Indecision filled Sam. She did want to see Brent again, but would he want to see her? If he did, wouldn't he have called? However, she had been the one to break it off, so maybe he was just honoring her wishes. An impulsive desire to follow Fanny's advice filled her. "Okay, let's pack." They had just finished packing her suitcase when a knock sounded at the door. Sam glanced at the older woman. "Are we expecting someone else?" Fanny's white hair bounced slightly as she shook her head. "Don't look at me. I did my part." Sam rolled her eyes and walked the short hallway to the front door. For the second time that evening, she pulled it open and blinked in surprise. "Brent?" "I know you said it wouldn't work, but Sam, I don't want to stay there without you." Fanny entered the living room then, pulling Sam's suitcase behind her. Brent's eyes flitted to the suitcase and back to Sam. "Are you going somewhere?" Sam smiled for the first time in a week. "Yeah, to see you, to tell you I was wrong." Fanny brushed her hands together in a dusting off motion. "Well, I guess my work here is done. It's good to see you again, Mr. McKasson. I expect I'll be seeing more of the two of you together." "What was that about?" Brent asked, as he watched Fanny walk down the steps. "Just good friends watching out for each other. Now come here. We have some lost time to make up for." She wound her arms around his neck and pulled him into the house. As the door clicked shut behind him, she leaned up and met his lips with her own.